Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, the Real Joe Quinn, recording this on a Tuesday, Valentine's night or day eve. Fellas, you already know what time it is. Handle your business. That's all I'm going to say. Episode 947 of the Real Deal Podcast, the final NFL week 23. Wow, 23, man, the NFL season just flies by. Like it just, like we were just talking about training camp. We're doing our first, show about the NFL like in August, previewing teams. And now, we're going to be looking forward towards the draft, as the NFL, of course, like the NBA, has no off season. But before we get to that, there was one more game to take a look at and, well, get to themes. A new dynasty. The Kansas City Chiefs have replaced the New England Patriots as the NFL's newest dynasty, and there is seemingly no end in sight to what this team could possibly do. We're going to do two deep dives. We're going to deep dive the first half of the game and then the second half of the game. It wasn't a classic, very good game. Had some, I don't think it's had dead spots. We'll get into it in the first half, but I actually think the game is a very good game. Anytime you get an overtime, so this is the only second overtime Super Bowl in NFL history. Of course, Kyle Shanahan was a part of that one. The other one, where Atlanta blew the 28-3 lead against New England a few years back. But a very good game, a lot of mistakes, some great defense. And, at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's just all there is to it. At the end of the day, he is who he is. We will certainly get to him. But before we get to that, we're going to deep dive the first half of Super Bowl 58. They came out, San Francisco came out and was dominating from the line of scrimmage. They were pushing Kansas City around all over the place. They could not block San Francisco if their lives depended on it. And it was starting to look like, minus the score, but it was starting to look like the last time Kansas City lost the Super Bowl, and that was to Tampa Bay a couple years ago. Like the offensive line, now Tooney was out. That's cool. He's an all-pro. That was a big loss for Kansas City, to say the least. And they just couldn't. They couldn't block San Francisco. Like Chase Young was looking like he was, about to have a 3 or 4 sack game. He was all over the place in the first half. Played a great game, especially the first half. And, Kansas City was holding on for dear life in that first half. But you knew at halftime, only down 10-3, that Kansas City was in great shape. And San Francisco will be kicking themselves forever, based off the fact that they were only up 10-3. San Francisco had a fumble lost on a possession that would have went for probably a touchdown. The way they were driving down the field, that was a killer. Then you had a situation where Kansas City down 10-0, converted on a 3rd and 9 they were at their own 40-yard line. They're down 10-0. Offensively, they've had one play offensively of note. That was the 52-yard pass where Pacheco ended up fumbling on that later on in that possession. Other than that, they did next to nothing offensively in the first half. So they're teetering on possibly being down 13 if they don't convert this, possibly being down 13-0 or even 17-0. So they get the 3rd and 9 conversion, 21-yard pass play, get a field goal, stabilize the game, and go in at halftime, despite getting the shit kicked out of them for the line of scrimmage, only down 10-3. And we've mentioned this before in the podcast. Kansas City has played close games all year long. They are as comfortable as any team in the league, probably more comfortable than any team in the league playing close games. And that did not bode well for San Francisco. It come the second half. In the first half, I thought Purdy threw the ball very well. He made some good throws. Started out hot, cooled off a little bit towards the second half, and that towards the end of the first half. That actually carried over into the third quarter as he was just not good. He was just bad in the third quarter. But the overriding point was San Francisco should have been up by they should have been up by at least 2 scores easily. They should have been up by at least 2 scores in that first half. At the end of the first half. We go to the second half, and Kansas City, like the previous second halves of their other 2 Super Bowl wins, completely were dominant in the second half. San Francisco starts out their first 2 possessions. Nobody could do anything in the beginning of the second half. There were a bunch of punts. Teams could, a bunch of 3-and-outs. San Francisco had back-to-back 3-and-outs on 6 straight pass plays. 6 straight pass plays. They had back-to-back 3-and-outs. They only had, in the second half, San Francisco only had 117 total yards in the entire second half. Kansas City's defense in the second half was spectacular. They did whatever they wanted to. They completely shut down San Francisco's passing attack for the most part. And this is what I just didn't understand with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan had a rough game. That's all this. We can't even sugarcoat it. He's getting bombarded throughout the country by fans, and rightfully so. And we'll get to the overtime, that decision. But he said he wanted to get 30 rushes in the game. They ended up getting 31. This is a game, the way the game was played out, where they should have ran the ball 40 times. Should have ran the ball 40 times. I understand McCaffrey was held in check rushing wise, having 20 carries for 88 yards, but I think this was a game where McCaffrey should have got 25 carries, 25 to 30 carries. There's no reason. Listen, McCaffrey, you've been saving him all season long for this moment. So yeah, I understand not running him a lot during the season. You want to maintain him. You want to keep him healthy. He's been injury prone over the course of his career. He, had a great year this year. Will finish, top 5 MVP, the offensive player of the year. This is a game where you run him 30 times if need be. Again, now you want to say, well, Cyril, what are you talking about? He had 30 touches. He should have had 40 touches. Should have 40. I wanted the ball in his hands at all times. You know why? Because your other weapons, Kittle, Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel combined 8 catches for 86 yards. Those 3 combined. These are all, now 2 of them are all pros. Deebo and Kittle were all pros. Okay. 8 catches, 86 yards. The best San Francisco receiver was Christian McCaffrey. He was and Jawan Jennings. In terms of wide receiver, it was Jawan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey. So there was no excuse. There was no excuse to not give McCaffrey more touches. Throwing against Kansas City's wide receiver, throwing the ball against Kansas City's defensive backs, and you heard Romo elaborate on this point over and over. You just can't do it. You can't make a steady diet of that. Their defensive schemes, their cornerbacks, the secondary is just too good. And even by throwing Jawan Jennings' numbers, so that's 12 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown between 4 guys. I mean, McDuffie was spectacular in this game. Snead was solid, was excellent. The guy, Chanel, was all over the place. I mean, all over the place in this game. So the way to beat Kansas City's defense and the way to go after Kansas City's defense was running the football. And I just don't understand. I've heard people call Kyle Shanahan out for this before over the course of the season when he's gotten away from the run and gotten too much reliance on Brock Purdy. He absolutely did it in this particular game. Kansas City in the second half started opening it up, started to get things going in the third quarter. They had over 300. They had well over 300 yards of offense in the second half. In the second half, you saw Kelsey get loose in the second half. He had a big second half. And by the way, if y'all thought, and I heard this on the internet and throughout the court on the internet at the end of the game, because I wasn't even on Twitter over the course of the game. I just don't. I'm too into the game to be watching, to be following tweets during the game. But I heard the talk after the game about Kelsey bumping Andy Reid, and y'all thinking that Andy Reid is going to take out his Hall of Fame All Pro tight end of a Super Bowl in this. Like, what? I'm so, because he bumped me. And listen, Andy Reid is a smart coach. He's a smart guy, smart coach. He's, oh yeah, he caught me off guard, which may be true, but I like. He's not taking Kelsey off the field. You saw some tweets. Should have been suspended. He's out of control. I believe that play he wasn't in on a play where the guy fumbled. Where there was a miss, where the guy fumbled, something like that happened. And he's pissed off. That was during the time of the game when Kansas City's offense couldn't do anything. But if you think that Andy Reid was taking Travis Kelsey off the field, like Travis Kelsey is not the third string tight end. We're not talking about a no name here. We're talking about one of the best players on their team, a Hall of Fame, arguably the greatest tight end of all time. He's going to take him off the field in a closely contested game where legacies are on the line. Like, I'm chasing my third Super Bowl, so I'm going to cut my nose to spite my face. Now, it might be addressed privately behind closed doors in the offseason. It may have been addressed yesterday, or even it might have been addressed that night. But he's not taking Travis Kelsey off the field. Like, are you kidding me? What are we doing? What are we talking about here? There was zero chance that was going to happen. Zero. And as far as, excuse me. So we get to the fourth quarter. Exciting fourth quarter. A back and forth fourth quarter. Both quarterbacks did their job. As I get some water here. Both quarterbacks absolutely did their jobs in terms of leading their teams to field goals. Both Purdy and Mahomes absolutely did their jobs. Kansas City, Mahomes led his team to a couple of field goals. Purdy led his team to a game, to what could have been the game winning field goal. Both the quarterbacks, in essence, did their jobs for the most part. And of course, you had to mix the block extra point, which absolutely was a killer. I mean, absolutely was a killer. And that's absolutely was a killer that allowed Kansas City to tie the game and get us and go into overtime. I had no problem with Kansas City not going for that second play down the 11-yard line with only 6 seconds left. I thought they possibly could get in that second play, but you can't risk that sack or fumble. You can't. Too many things can go wrong before you once you risk that. Mahomes in the second half was spectacular. Like, after a shaky first half, I know he had outside the interception in the third quarter, which San Francisco was not able to take advantage of. That was a missed opportunity. In the first, and at up 10-3, they throw an interception. He throws an interception. They had the ball at the Kansas City on Kansas City side of the field, and they get nothing out of that. That was not even a field goal, because at that point, Kansas City's offense is still struggling. That again, a huge missed opportunity for San Francisco, who will be kicking themselves. I'm sure they're kicking themselves after that game with some of the mistakes that they made. We'll talk more about that, but we get to overtime. San Francisco wins the toss, and they choose to give Kansas City the ball, or they choose to take the ball first, which with the old rules would have made perfect sense. If you score a touchdown first, the game is over. The problem is since the Buffalo Kansas City game a couple of years ago, that rule got changed in the playoffs where each team is guaranteed a possession unless the defense scores a touchdown. And it's absolutely inexcusable, beyond inexcusable, why in that situation you don't defer. First of all, if you defer, right? First of all, you defer because you're putting the pressure on the offensive team to score a touchdown. Okay. A field goal means next to nothing. They get a field goal, you score a touchdown, the game's over. 1. 2, you're going to get the ball back no matter what. Even if they score a touchdown, you're going to get the ball back, deferring. And 3, you could actually win the game by scoring a defensive touchdown. 6-6, the game is over. Fumble recovery, the game is over. To the house, the game is over. So not to take the ball, I'm seriously considering. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan forgot about the rules. I'm not even joking. Because you had 3 or 4 San Francisco 49ers players say that they had trouble with the rules or forgot the certain aspects of the rules. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan wasn't one of them. There's zero excuse. There's zero reason for you to take the ball under the current format, where even a touchdown does not win the game for you. Now, I had no problem with Shanahan not going for it on 3rd and 4, on 4th and 4 when they drove the ball down. To Kansas City's inside Kansas City's 8-yard line or something like that. It was close. It was on 8 or 9-yard line, something like that, or even it might even been closer. But it was inside the 10-yard line. I had no problem for it not going for it because if you don't go for it, all they need is a field goal, and you got Patrick Mahomes. So that was fine. Kick the field goal, make them score. But to not defer made zero sense, and to say that, well, the analytics, which is the one of the worst words in sports. When I hear the word analytics, it makes my skin crawl when these organizations use the word analytics, because it just makes dumbasses out of seemingly smart people in sports. It really does. I can't say it. I can't say it any other way. There's no excuse. Think about this, right? So the analytics say, hey, if they don't score, then if we don't score, then they don't score, then we want the ball back the 3rd time, so that will guarantee if we score, then the game's over. How many overtimes you're gonna have that many possessions? Are there gonna be 3 possessions? How many let's think about that for a second. Kansas City scored in their second possession. In most overtimes, teams are gonna score in either first or second possession. There's not gonna be 3 possessions at this point in the game. Guys are tired. This is the Super Bowl. Mistakes are going to happen. Like the idea that you're playing, that you're thinking that there's going to be a 3rd possession is insane in this type of game. It's absolutely insane. So analytics again makes a dumbass out of a guy who was considered to be one of the brighter coaches in the league. It was just a dumbass move. Like there's all there is to it. Like, and Kyle Shanahan is not a dumb guy. Clearly, he's not. Especially offensively. But this was a dumbass move. It's just the more and more you think about it, it should have been just an easy decision to defer and give Kansas City the ball. Easy decision. When Mahomes gets the ball back after the San Francisco field goal, you knew the game was you knew it was a wrap. You knew it was a wrap. Like there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to take them down the field and they were going to score a touchdown the way it was set up. We're going to do plenty on Kansas City. I want to get to a couple 49ers things. 49ers points in terms of this game. This game, I would say that if I compare this to the last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl, I know they were up 21-10 at halftime, and they got outscored 30-21 nothing in the fourth quarter. So that was a rough one. I mean, they were up 20-10 at halftime at one point. And going to the fourth quarter, they were up 20-10. And they got outscored 21-0 in the fourth quarter. So that was a rough one. But at that point, I think it was safe to say that Kansas City, at that 2019 Kansas City team, had probably player for player more talent than San Francisco. And there was a major gap, of course, at the quarterback position. In this game, pound for pound, San Francisco has more talent. Like, they have all pros up and down the board. Now, I don't think when I get to the Kansas City aspect, I'll explain why this Kansas City team is much better than what we realized that they were, despite the record of them being only, 11-6 and losing 6 games this season, which is a lot for a Super Bowl champion. The most going back to, you got to go back to Baltimore in the 2012 season when they were like 10-6. But this team was much better than that from a standpoint when you look at them as a complete team. The reason why I think this loss is harder and more devastating is, number one, Purdy wasn't the problem. Your quarterback, going back to that Super Bowl 4 years ago, to a man in that organization, nobody will publicly say it, but they thought Garofalo cost them that Super Bowl. To a man in that organization, they believe that he absolutely cost them that Super Bowl. Right? Purdy in this game I would give Purdy a B to B plus. Now, listen, I'm not going to go Dan Orlovsky and sit here and say he played fantastic. That's just stupid. He didn't play fantastic. He missed. There were at least 2 touchdown throws that he missed. One should have been without question a touchdown to Ayuk in the first half. Should have been a touchdown. He missed throws, and he was not good in that third quarter. Like I said, they only had 117 yards of offense in the second half. Now, again, give Spagnuolo and Kansas City's defense a lot of credit. They basically locked down everybody in these playoffs and never gave up more than 27 points this season, which is just, in this day and time, is just unheard of. But Purdy was not the problem, though. He didn't make the catastrophic mistake. He stayed away from that, and he made some plays. He did take him down the field to get what possibly could have been the game winning field goal to make it 19-16. Okay, you gotta give him credit for that. He took him down the field when Kansas City went up 13-10, bounced right back and scored when momentum could have went the other way. So Purdy made plays in this game. Again, he had a solid performance, a very good performance, solid to very good performance. He wasn't the problem. Now, again, there are levels to this. Like, he's not Patrick Mahomes. Nobody is. He couldn't reach that level, and that's fine. I'm not knocking him for not being Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the world. So you have that going for you, and the fact that this San Francisco team, again, was player for player, has more talent than that team back in 2019. They just do. And now you're going to have to pay Purdy, and you're going to lose some of that talent. You're going to lose some of that talent, pure and simple. This game was right there for the taking. I mean, right there for the taking for San Francisco. Now, it's hard for me to say they should have won this game, because now I'm disrespecting a team that is going to win God knows how many Super Bowls, and a franchise that could win, who knows. I said 5. I got to push that number. That number, that might be low, to be honest with you. The way this team is going, 5 might be low. I had 5 in mind. 2 is still they're still 2 Super Bowls away from that, but that number might go to 6. I might have to push that up at least 1 Super Bowl to where they're going to win probably 6. But everything was right there for you in this particular game. Kansas City in that first half offensively looked lost. They looked lost in that first half. Even Mahomes was semi-shook in the first half. Had a little bit of happy feet. And they just San Francisco with the penalties, with you can't, the ball hitting the guy in the foot on a punt, a blocked extra point. You just those mistakes against a team like Kansas City, they just can't happen. They just cannot happen against that quarterback. You just can't. They do again. This is the part of Kansas City where they have taken a page out of New England's book. They are so solid all around that you can't have one aspect of your game fail you. They have a great kicker. They have great special teams. We know what the quarterback is, and now they have a complete defense. Kansas City is a complete football team. They lost to a complete football team, but this is a game that San Francisco easily could have won. Easily could have won. Baltimore back in the day, they were getting their asses kicked down 28-6. That game shouldn't even been as close as it did until the lights went off in New Orleans. That's the only reason that game went off. That's the only reason why that game was close, because they shut the lights off. And Baltimore was not the same team after that, and barely survived to win a close game down in the fourth quarter. 11 years ago. This game was right there on a platter for San Francisco. When you talk about Kansas City, I think that we have to, first of all, like in their 3 Super Bowl wins, they've outscored their opponents 67-33. That's going back to first San Francisco game, last year's Philadelphia game, and now this game. 67-33. And enough can't be said about Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Like Spagnuolo's defense in the second half, the perfectly timed blitzes, that blitz on the 3rd and 4 that got in the overtime that got San Francisco off the field and forced them to a field goal. It was a perfectly disguised, well-timed blitz that McDuffie comes off the edge. They were expecting blitz, but they weren't expecting him, a six guy, to come. He brought 6. He knocks the ball down. They forced him to kick a field goal. Oh, excuse me. Was that my bad? Actually, that wasn't. That was the one that forced them to kick a field goal that allowed Kansas City, I believe, to have enough time to go back down the field to tie the side game. I'm sorry. So that was in the fourth quarter. That blitz, but that was the biggest defensive play of the game. Considering if 49ers convert that, they could have ran the clock down in essence and set up a game-winning field goal. And now Andy Reid, as a coach, enters, that rare era of 3 Super Bowls. Only the likes of course, you got Belichick, Gibbs, Bill Walsh. That is rarefied air. That when you get that 3rd Super Bowl, separates them from a few guys that have 2, Seifert, Parcells, Shula, Lombardi. You get that 3rd. Now we're talking about, we'll talk about Mahomes challenging Brady for the GOAT. It is on the table that Andy Reid could end up being the greatest coach of all time. He is not that far away from Bill Belichick as far as wins, total wins. Playoff wins, he's still, Belichick has 30. Reid has 14, but I don't know who knows what Belichick's future will look like, even if he does get with a team next year. Andy Reid is not going anywhere anytime soon. I just don't as long as Patrick Mahomes is on the team, I don't see Andy Reid retiring anytime soon. I just don't. This guy is chasing those records just like Mahomes is. And to think, this was a guy at one point who we used to destroy when he was with the Eagles with the clock management, even beginning of his Kansas City tenure. He is heads and shoulders above anybody in the NFL in terms of being the best coach in football. He's heads and shoulders above anybody. And it's not just X's and O's. It's how he manages his team, the culture, his demeanor. That team is never nervous. They never get too high, never get too low. So I think that they are set up for a run that if they don't if they don't exceed New England's, will at worst to me match what New England did for 20 years in the 2000s. This team was better than what people thought it was, and all season long we kept saying it was scary for the AFC, especially when they got to the Super Bowl, considering that this was the worst version of Kansas City. I'm not so sure I believe that after a couple of days to digest this game, to look back on their season. When you look at the totality of their team, they've had years where they've played better offense, but none of the Kansas City teams in the Mahomes era or the Andy Reid era, they've played better defense since Mahomes got there. Like, this by far is their best defense. They have a all-world kicker, right? And you have Patrick Mahomes, even though this year statistically was his worst year, he is at a level in terms of his understanding of the game. We talked about it last week or a couple of weeks ago after they beat Baltimore, where he's completely mastered the game of football. Like, he's a chess master. Like, he's similar to like what LeBron James became. Like, this version of him is the best version, despite years where he's thrown 5,000 yards, despite years where he's won MVPs, despite years where he's thrown 50 touchdowns. This version of Patrick Mahomes at age 28 is the best version of him. The way he's able to control a football game and manage a football game. Yeah, I said it. Manage a football game. This is the best version of him. So with that being said, despite the six losses, I can make a case that this was Kansas City's best overall team in terms of this was their most complete team during the Reid Mahomes tenure. I can make that case that they're probably better than what we give them credit for. And again, the scary thing is they have a defense. They're a relatively young football team. Yeah, they're old. Kelsey is not getting any younger. We understand that. They have to make a decision on Chris Jones, which I don't know if that's even a decision. Like, Chris Jones, I don't see how you listen. Now they letting go Tyreek Hill. Listen, there's a big difference between I feel like letting go Tyreek Hill or possibly trading Tyreek Hill versus letting go possibly Chris Jones. I don't think you can I think they have to do everything in their power to sign Chris Jones. Chris Jones is one of the best players in football at a position that you don't see defensive tackles doing what he does. Like that, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Again, if they did let him go, I wouldn't, like Tyreek Hill, I wouldn't doubt him. They're doing it for a reason. I have full trust in them. I have more trust now. I had trust in them even before during the Tyreek Hill move. I have that trust has tripled now, considering what they've done since they let go Tyreek Hill. And how about that? They let go Tyreek Hill in the spring of 2022, and they've won Super Bowls in both years with no Tyreek Hill. But Chris Jones, I don't think you can. I just think that they need to do everything in their power to re-sign him. Like that guy, a guy that can, he can wreck a game, and he made plays that were game saving, that saved touchdowns with the pressures, not just the sacks or tackles, just with disrupting the quarterback's rhythm, pushing the offensive lineman into your quarterback. He did it against Buffalo, and we saw him do it in this game. So he made, not only just being just a great player, he made intangible plays that helped them win a championship. And he's by far the best player on that defense. even with McDuffie and some of the other guys they have, he's still heads and shoulders above any of their defensive players. They're one of the top defenders in the league. As far as Mahomes versus history, it goes beyond gauging him versus the other quarterbacks in NFL history. I think right now he is solidified himself as the second greatest quarterback of all time. You know how much respect. If you listen to this podcast, you know how much respect and how much I revere as a football player Joe Montana. For years I thought Montana was the greatest until Brady got that 6th Super Bowl. But I like Mahomes with the playoff record, with the MVPs, with the fact that he's taken teams that were not considered to be as dominating teams to the Super Bowl, the intangibles. I have to put him over Montana. I know Montana has one more Super Bowl, and I know Montana has played cleaner Super Bowl. Nobody has in history of the NFL has played cleaner in Super Bowls than Montana. No quarterback. Like, no quarterback can match 4-0, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, nobody can match that from that standpoint. That's perfect. That's near to perfect football. But Mahomes' postseason now record is what? 15-3. You're talking like what? 43 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, just some ridiculous mark. 41 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. It's just some insane mark. He threw his first interception in this game. Was his first interception in 218 attempts in a postseason, which again, that just doesn't happen. Even to some of the greatest of all time, that doesn't happen. As far as going that many pass attempts without throwing a pick, and he doesn't. This is not a guy who plays conservative by any stretch of imagination. So you got to start think about comparing him to other quarterbacks in NFL history. You got to start. He's gotten off to as good a start as any player in the history of professional team sports. You're talking about, again, three MVP, three Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 MVPs in the regular season. You got to go like Bill Russell. Bill Russell, six championships, 4 regular season MVPs. They didn't have finals MVPs then, but there's a reason why they named the trophy after them. You go to hockey, Guy Lafleur, 4 Stanley Cups, 2 MVPs. Larry Bird, 3 MVPs, 3 championships, 2 finals MVPs. This is like the first 7 years of their respective careers. Mickey Mantle, 2 MVPs, 4 championships. And of course, I already mentioned Mahomes. I don't go DiMaggio and Babe Ruth because they were not playing against Black or Latino players. I'm sorry. I just don't. I can't. It doesn't carry the same weight to me. You wasn't playing against brothers or Latino players, which are some of the greatest players of all time. I can't. I just don't. It just doesn't carry the same weight. That's another. We can talk about that on another podcast. Why I don't. That their numbers and what their accomplishments don't carry the same weight as after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. But you have to start putting Mahomes up there with he's in conversation. He's going to be in a conversation in terms of being one of the greatest athletes of all time. Like when he's 38, 39, we're going to be having that conversation when he's racked up, 5 or 6, or maybe even 7 Super Bowls. He's going to be in that conversation without question. And with this repeat, 7 Super Bowls is that's on the table now for Mahomes. 28 years old. He's been relatively healthy over the course of his career. With the best organization in football, the best coach in football, a great culture. 7 is on the table. It's still a hell of a lot of Super Bowls. 4 Super Bowls like that. They're a Joe Montana career away from. He's a Joe Montana career away from tying Tom Brady. So it's still a ways away when you think about it. But he had to have this one to give himself a realistic chance of catching Tom Brady. I felt like he had to have this one. And frankly, moving forward, despite the minefield that the AFC will be next year, they are the favorites to win it all next year. And I would not be surprised if they three-peat it. Not by any, because now they have mastered how to navigate the regular season to where they don't have to have home field advantage. They don't have to go have this gaudy record. They don't have to go all out for those 18 weeks. They know how to manage. They're kind of like where the Lakers were in the early 2000s with Kobe and Shaq. They would kind of tread outside the Lakers. When you go back and look at that. The Lakers were great the first year, right, in the regular season. Then after that, they had okay regular seasons, kind of not treaded water, but kind of, took their foot off the gas and got ready for the playoffs. That's where I think Kansas City is at right now. And that would be, of course, the Lakers are the last team to win 3 straight championships. So that's why I bring them up as well. That 2000 to 2002 LA Laker team led by, of course, Shaq and Kobe. But I think Kansas City knows how to navigate the regular season better than anyone. And as long as the 15 is upright and Andy Reid is coaching, they will never be an underdog, and it does not matter. It doesn't matter where they play at. I mean, the rest of the AFC is chasing them. Again, the AFC is going to be loaded next year, probably even stronger next year if you get some healthy quarterbacks back. And you have, of course, the Chargers getting Harbaugh as a head coach. So the AFC, the AFC is the AFC. It's the reason why San Francisco is the favorite next year, the betting favorite, is because of how tough the AFC is. That's the reason why. But I without question, I have more confidence in their ability to repeat than I did the San Francisco team in '90, or even the New England team in 2005. I just do, because of where they're at right now. As far as just being, they are as an organization, the way they move, their culture, the way they draft, develop talent, they're just light years ahead of. They're just ahead of everybody in the NFL. They're smarter, they're like the Patriots. They are the new Patriots. That's all there is to it. They are absolutely the new Patriots. And they have a guy in Patrick Mahomes that is just a generational talent. And he is on pace to be the greatest quarterback of all time, if not one of the greatest athletes of all time. And again, after the game, he's already talking about going for a third straight. That's the mindset he has. He has that Jordan mind. He has that Kobe. He has that mindset of, they say greatness is greedy. He's nowhere near being done as far as settling for just 3 Super Bowls. But overall, very good game. We'll talk a little bit more about the halftime performance later on the podcast. But again, San Francisco, you got to be you have to be sick if you're the 49ers. That game was right there. One last thing before I move on. The Brock Purdy discourse is interesting to me. And it's interesting and kind of annoying at the same time. It's like, we can't just say that he's just a very good quarterback. We either have to say he's, Joe Montana-like, which I've heard, or we have to say we have to bring back this game manager-ish bullshit again, or we have to bring back the fact, or, Dan Orlovsky, he was fantastic. So it's like we can't find a happy medium or a middle ground with how we gauge Brock Purdy. It's really not that difficult. Like, Brock Purdy was a very good quarterback. He's not great. He's not, he's going to get paid because there's not that many very good quarterbacks in the NFL. He's still relatively young, so he can get better. But I just think he's very good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to sit here and say that he is what I thought he was coming into this playoffs, and throughout the guy who I saw throughout the course of the regular season, like a guy that could make some plays, but also needs a certain amount of talent around him. Now, it'll be very interesting as they start losing some of those players, which they will, how he develops as in the future, in particular next year. They're going to start losing some of these guys. They have too much talent with him getting paid, and with him going to get paid to keep all those all pros on the team. That's all there is to it. So we will absolutely know who and what Brock Purdy is as a player in the very, very near future. Next season, by next season, we'll know. Who won the week? Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. That would have been too easy. You know who won the week? Taylor Swift. You know why Taylor Swift won the week? Because in spite of all the hate, the vitriol that you guys have just given her, she came out on top not only with album of the year with the Grammys. She's dating a guy who, you know, is one of the greatest tight ends of all time. And the Kansas City Chiefs won. And everybody is mugging. Everybody was railing on Taylor Swift. Oh, we see her too much. And it's like, first of all, y'all was giving her way. I mean, as a country, as a nation, y'all was giving Taylor Swift way too much energy. Like when I watch Kansas City football games, even in a regular season, and they would show her 100,000 times, it just didn't do it for me. It didn't bother me. And like I really didn't have any emotion. Even it didn't have any emotion or thoughts of it. I understood what it was. I understood that they are trying to attract a younger demographic. Like Taylor Swift made over $300 million for the NFL, as far as in terms of ratings and things of that nature. Like $300 million. That's why they keep showing her every 5 seconds. Well, I did notice in this game, it wasn't too many Taylor Swift moments in the first when Kansas City was struggling, when they were down 10-0. They had that. There was limited Taylor Swift access in that first half. In the second half, Kelsey started catching passes. Oh, it's Taylor. Taylor's laughing and, you know, chilling with Ice Spice. But she won the week. She won the week. You can't have a better week or a better 2 weeks than what she's had. Like, it's just impossible. Impossible. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, there's really no reason to hate on Taylor Swift from a standpoint of, you know, I don't listen to Taylor Swift albums. She's clearly talented, but she's great at what she does. Like, she's great at making records and making hits and making music. She is. Love her or hate her, she's great at it. I mean, it is what it is. You want, like, listen, you want to get into the whole celebrity dating is not real, whatever. Well, that's a whole other conversation. You know, fake relationships, how real are these relationships? We know where the time is from that standpoint, more times than not. But the bottom line is she won ultimately with all this attention that's going towards her, with the fact that Kansas City won the Super Bowl. She won. Period. So Taylor Swift wins the week. I'm sure y'all are thrilled by that. We'll close out with some real thoughts. Shannon Sharpe versus Mike Epps. This is hilarious, to say the least. Shannon Sharpe, of course, responded to Mike Epps' comments he made in a recent show about Shannon Sharpe's sexuality and about the fact that, according to Shannon Sharpe, he's more pissed off about Mike Epps lying, basically saying that Shannon asked him to be on Club Shay Shay, and he vehemently denies that. Basically accuses Mike Epps of, chasing clout and so on, and calls him a flat out liar. And, I'm going to see you when I see you. I'm coming in, I'm coming to Indianapolis during the All-Star weekend, which is next week. Mike Epps responds basically by, in essence, almost without saying it, without basically saying it, but insinuating that, he'll shoot Shannon Sharpe, which we know it's not going to happen and nobody's going to fight. Listen, look, this is where we're at as in society. First of all, Shannon Sharpe is winning 2024. So, like, whether you love, hate Shannon Sharpe or in between, he's absolutely winning 2024. Like, he has covered, like, in terms of going viral, in terms of with his podcast, the Nightcap, First Take, he's killing the game. He's killing it out here. He is. You can't take anything away from what he's doing right now. The Nightcap is great. That show is a great show. Him and Ocho Cinco or him with Gilbert Arenas is great. But to me, I look at this. This is kind of like a semi-manufactured beef And we already know what direction that this is going in. They're going to meet up in Indianapolis. You're going to see Mike Epps on Club Shay Shay in probably, if not that weekend, the following week. And there we go. That's what's going to happen. Mike Epps' numbers going to blow up on his concert tour, and Shannon Sharp probably, that interview will probably do about 15 million views, 10 to 15 million, if not more views. Period. So that's, I mean, both of these guys know how to play the game, and Shannon Sharp is playing the game as well as anybody right now as far as generating attention. And it's an interesting thing with Shannon Sharp, because I don't think, right now, first of all, I'm predicting in 2024, you're going to see a number of beefs with Shannon Sharp. You're going to see a number of beefs involving Shannon Sharp, because he is winning the internet. And right now, the most valuable, the most addictive drug right now in society that won't kill you, but, can do some damage, but it won't kill you physically, is attention. And right now, Shannon Sharp, there's no one right now who's generating the type of attention from a sports person in terms of sports wise in these viral streets or in these internet streets as Shannon Sharp so far in 2024. It is a highly competitive business going viral. Like people go viral, do stupid shit. You forget about it in 10 seconds and we move on. Shannon Sharp going viral. These podcasts, the nightcap, this has been going on for about a month now. A month. And it's not going to stop, because we'll be talking about Mike Epps in this up until All-Star Weekend, and then we'll continue. He'll come out with another interview. We'll talk about that. So he is winning the internet, and you're going to see a lot. There's going to be some jealousy. There's going to be some jealousy for sure. So this will be the first of a few beefs I predict in 2024 that people coming at Shannon Sharp. I just did like this. That's the society we're in right now. Because what happens is you come at the person who set the internet on fire. You gain traction with the attention that they might give you, and it turns to a back and forth, and that's where we're at right now. So I you can't take anything away from what Shannon Sharp is doing right now, because I don't think, even though he wants the attention for his podcast, I'm sure we all do, but he's not just a clickbait, or he's not a classic clickbaiter per se, and just saying wild shit and seeing what happens, seeing what sticks. No, there's a skill to what he's doing, and obviously the type of guest that he's getting, like A-list guest here, like in the from the comedic world, the entertainment world. So, he's killing the game in 2024. And again, Mike Epps will absolutely eat off this in terms of his concert tours. I promise you. Okay, they're going to do a sit-down interview within 2 weeks. I guarantee. I guarantee it that that it will happen. As far as the Usher performance goes, listen. The problem with the Usher performance was not Usher. The problem with the Usher performance was you had to, he has to squeeze in 30 years of classics in 13 minutes. And that's a rough deal. And he did an excellent job at it. But I thought that if he would have got another like 5 to 7 minutes, that the show could have been even like legendary. I'm not going to sit up here and rank the show. There have been too many shows for me. I would have to really sit down and do some digging to rank it per se. It was a great performance. The problem for Usher was her. That was the problem. I thought when she started playing the guitar, basically a cappella, I thought she stole the show. I thought for that 2 or 3 minutes, I really believe that she stole that for that 2 or 3 minute period, which is a long time, which is a big chunk when you consider that the halftime. Each of these halftime shows is only like 12 to 13 minutes. She was phenomenal. I mean, I've always been a big her fan. She's immensely talented. Has had a number of hits, won Grammys, Oscars. So she's all world talent. She actually stole Usher's thunder. I hate to say it, but it is true. That was the biggest problem with the Usher show. It's not nobody to blame. I mean, it's just one of those things that just happened. It was a great performance, but her performance was remarkable. Just a great performance. That was the problem with the Usher. That took away a bit from Usher's performance, to be honest with you. So we are done with the actual playing, actual talking about the games on the football field. But we're clearly not done with NFL football. Of course, it is, like I mentioned earlier, it is year round. We will shift our programming and our topics into the NBA. You have All-Star Weekend coming up. A lot to talk about in what's been a busy NBA season. A lot of great stories. Just a fascinating Western Conference, to say the least, how deep it is. Are these younger teams ready to kind of push aside, the likes of the Lakers and Golden State as the old guard? This old guard tries to hang on. Denver is Denver, even though they got spanked last night. We can kind of see that coming with Milwaukee, them beating Milwaukee the week before. But just a lot of great stories in the NBA right now. A lot to like about the NBA right now. Again, I've said this, and I'll say it a couple that I think last podcast or podcast before. I think it was last podcast that there is as much talent in the NBA as there ever has been. And I really believe that we're witnessing the second greatest era of basketball. Right, the basketball night in, night out is phenomenal. And it's played at a just uber high level. It really is. It really is remarkable watching the NBA night in and night out. And you don't have to have like two great teams playing. Like last night, perfect case in point, Victor Wembanyama has a triple double with 27, 14, and 10 blocks against a bad Toronto team. So you have two shitty teams, right? Toronto and San Antonio, but you have this generational talent who's going to be the best player in the league in 2 years and who's going to be a championship player if he stays healthy. So just watching him was worth a watch last night, to be honest with you. That's where the NBA is at right now in terms of level of talent. So we will obviously be discussing a lot more NBA. As always, the NFL never shuts down. There'll be cuts and the draft. Start looking at some draft and what could possibly happen with that. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. This podcast will be up by tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. So long.